Good morning, Abundant Life Church. This is Pastor Chris. Today we're going to wrap up our study on John chapter 7, verses 40 down through 53. We've been talking about people's reaction to Jesus. He's at the festival and he's making very open and overt allusions to himself as, I am the Messiah. I'm the prophet that's like Moses that you've heard about. And everybody responds a little differently to him. But it matters how you respond because it's a question of spiritual life or spiritual death. Jesus was saying, if you don't want to die of thirst, if you don't want to die of spiritual thirst, if you want to live, just as surely as God saved the people by giving them water in the desert, if you want that, then you have to come to God through Him. Without that, you are going to die spiritually. If you're out in the desert with Moses and you think, I don't really want to drink rock water, thank you very much. Okay, great, you're going to die. If you're thinking, I don't really want to come to Jesus, okay, you're going to die. You're going to die spiritually. And some people resent that, and some don't believe Him. But again, nobody ignored it. That's the response we do not see here. Nobody's apathetic. Nobody's ignoring Jesus. And yet, that's probably the biggest spiritual problem there is today. Apathy. It's not that people are angry about Jesus. No, I think the problem with a lot of people is they don't seem to care at all. Jesus isn't on their radar. I don't know. I think I'd rather have people angry because then he's at least they're thinking about him. But I think people just go through their day without giving him any thought or having any opinion one way or the other. But what you think about Jesus is going to determine where you spend eternity. Hang on just a second. Okay, back with you. The point is that people today are apathetic about Jesus, but that's something they have to make that choice. They have to make that decision. And that's our mission field today. We have to let people know not only that Jesus is the way to be saved, but they need to realize that he does indeed matter. And they have to see why he matters. How do we get a message like that out to the world that doesn't realize it's important? Well, one way is to act all superior, like we have all the answers, but nobody else does, and we're going to heaven, but they aren't. That's a good approach. Think it'll work? No, that usually turns people away. That was the approach the Pharisees took. We're so much better than you because we keep the law. How did that work out for them? Well, another approach is we could be secret agents for the Lord and try and blend in and not let anyone know that we're really followers. That was Nicodemus's approach. Is that the route to go? Or maybe we could do what Jesus did and minister to the poor, to comfort the hurting, and let people know that there's a better way, that there is hope. Not everyone is going to respond to that, but many will. And apparently, getting this message out with love and hope and encouragement was the way Jesus chose to do it. I'm going to tell you one more story here before I sign off. Tell you how long ago this story happened. It took place in a barber shop. They had an old barber shop up in northern Idaho where I started a ministry at Mr. C's Tonsorial Parlor. And I remember I was in there one day to get my hair cut, and there was a guy in the chair already, so I'm sitting reading a magazine, and I could hear Mr. C, the barber, talking to this customer. And he told him, hey, my church is doing this big event on Sunday. We'd love to have you there. I don't remember what the event was, but it was like a special concert or something. And this guy kind of, well, okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And I sort of wondered, what will he do when I get into the chair? Because he didn't know who I was. So I finally get up there, and first thing he says is, well, hey, I don't know if you heard me say it, but our church is having a special event. We'd love to have you there. I said, oh, that sounds great. I'd love to go, but I have to work on Sundays. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I said, yeah, I keep asking for Sundays off, but my boss won't give it to me. Well, where do you work? I said, I'm the pastor at the Christian church. He laughed. But the interesting thing about that is, that was Mr. C. He was somebody who was always, he was one of the kindest people, and he was constantly inviting people to just come check out Jesus. I think that's the kind of ambassador that the Lord is looking for. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.